Right, so I'm gonna tell you another one of my white shark chronicles, and this one was this one was particularly pretty scary, but it taught me a lesson, and there's a lesson in this video. This was a period where I was doing quite a bit of free diving with great white sharks, and it was the early 2000s or late 90s, I can't remember exactly when. And I was approached by a film company, a production company. I think it was Channel 5 or something, or BBC. It was a UK outfit called Pioneer Productions, and I'd worked with them before. And the producer director of the show, his name was John. And they called me up, they phoned me up because it was pretty widely known that I was exploring interactions between humans and great white sharks. That's what my interest is. You know, I love white shark behavior, and at that period, I was going outside of the cage or going off the boat and free diving with the great white sharks, and filming them and trying to get as close to them as possible to really explore the interactions between humans and sharks and how they interacted with us. I was trying to understand the different part of their behavior. So anyway, this is around about September. It was August, September. I think it was September. And John phones me up from the UK, and he says, Craig, we're doing this documentary series, and I can't remember what it was called, but we know that you're free diving with the great white sharks, and we'd like to come out and film you free diving with these animals and you know, interview you and find out what you're doing. So I said to him, okay, but when do you want to do this? So he says, well, it was like in a couple of weeks. There was hardly any time between the phone call and when, say 2 weeks. He said to me, we want to come in 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. So I said to him, well, how long are you coming for? So he said, well, we've got 5 days. And I said, well, John, it's, 5 days is not enough of a window, because when you're free diving with great white sharks, you have to have the right window. You need the right sea conditions. The visibility has to be correct. The weather has to be correct. You can't go into the water and the wind's blowing and there's water going to your snorkel, and you're spending more time just trying to survive in the water than actually focusing on the sharks. And then it becomes dangerous, and you can't go into the water when there's bad visibility and you're looking at one shark and another shark comes from a different direction and takes you out. So you got to be very careful. So in any case, I said to him, listen, you don't have enough a big enough window. We need 2 weeks or something to find the right conditions, and then I can go into the water and you can film me free diving with the sharks. So John says to me, Craig, we're really desperate for the sequence, and all we need is a couple of interviews with you and a shot of you in the water and a great white shark. And I said, well, I was skeptical, I was dubious about it, I wasn't comfortable with it. And I've been doing this very privately with my own crew. I'd be out there with my guys like Mike Ledley or Cliffy, my crew, and I trusted them, and it wasn't something for the media. We didn't do it for the media. I wasn't interested in being on TV with the free diving. It was my personal understanding of the great white sharks. And eventually John says to me, Craig, I'll tell you what, we'll pay you a good chunk of money to do this. And we know it's not guaranteed, but if it works, great. If it doesn't work, we take the chance, but you still keep the money. And my motivation honestly wasn't the money, but I said, okay, I agreed to it. And which is the wrong thing to do, because you don't free dive with great white sharks for money or for recognition or for promoting yourself, because that is when you fuck it up, you screw it up, I promise you. Anyway, they eventually arrived there in Khansbaai, and we're working at Dyer Island, and the weather is not good. We only got 5 days, and we're off the water for several days, so we're going around to different spots, and they're doing interviews with me, and they're trying to get what they call B-roll. And eventually, I think it was the, I think it was actually the last day. It was the last day of shooting, and the conditions sort of got to 50-50. You know, like, if you can put it into a perspective, there was 50-50 conditions for free diving with great white sharks. And when I free dive with a great white shark, I want at least 80% on my side. The conditions and the sharks need to be, in a percentage point of view, at least 80% on my side. So we get out there, and it's a dark sky, it's a slate gray sky, it looks like a sheet of lead across the top of us. The water's dark, the visibility is not great. The sharks are on, I mean, these sharks are on. We've got a couple of serious sharks around the boat. And the day's ticking on, and eventually it gets to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And by that time, the wind had subsided a bit, the sea had calmed slightly, and eventually I looked at it and I said, okay. And John, I could see they were getting anxious because they did all the interviews, and they got some shots of the sharks on the surface, but they hadn't got their money shot. Their money shot was me in the water with a great white shark. So I came up with a plan, and I said to John, I said, okay, your underwater cameraman, he's not coming in the water with me. I said, what he does, he takes his camera, his underwater housing, and he lies on top of one of the outboard engines, and he just dips it in the water like that, and he points it in my direction. And I said, I'm going to go in the water, and when the shark swims past, I'll swim out between the camera and the shark, and we get the shot like that. I said, but I can't go out there free diving and swimming with him because the conditions are deadly. I'm going to die out there today. So Mike, one of my crew, he comes over to me and he says to me quietly, he says, Craig, it's not a good idea. You shouldn't be doing this. And I say to Mike, fuck, you know, let's just get the shot. I say, Mike, what I need you to do, this guy's going to be on the camera here, lying on this engine. I need you to be sitting on this engine with a pole. And I said, if the shit hits a fan, you hit that shark with a pole and push it away and you get me out the water. So Mike reluctantly says, okay, let's go for it. We're going to do this. So I kit up, my heart's beating out of my chest. I'm not feeling comfortable, which is not good because the shark can feel, the shark knows that I'm nervous in the water, knows that you're nervous in the water. They can feel you. Anyway, I kit up, I put my mask on, snorkel, my fins, and I'm standing on a dive platform and I'm looking around, and I don't have a camera or anything with me. I've got a aluminium pole about 1 meter long, and that's to push the shark off if it comes at me. And I get into the water. I go into the water, and I don't go far from the boat. I go maybe 1 meter, 2 meters from the boat. And I'm still looking around like this. I'm trying to see where the sharks are. It's not very good visibility. The visibility is maybe 7-8 meters. And suddenly, something grabs my foot, and I look down, and their shark has gone off with one of my fins. A small shark, about 2.5 meters long, came in. I didn't even see it come in, grabbed my fin, ripped my fin off, and took off with my fin. One of my fins. So obviously, I'm shitting myself. So I got a big fright. I get out the water, and I'm like, geez, you know, and I said to the cameraman, did you get that? The cameraman says, no, I didn't get it. I didn't even see the shark. I said, geez, shark just took my fin off. So anyway, I looked for another pair of fins. We got more fins on the boat. Mike comes over to me again. He says, Craig, don't do this. This is not good to do. And I said, Mike, it's just one shot, my man. Let's just get this shot. So I fin up again. I've got fins on. Go back into the water. I stay a bit closer to the boat. And next thing, this nice big shark comes around. Probably 3.7, 3.6 meters long. And it's a female, and she comes around the boat like this. Comes around and she checks me out. And she's only 1 meter away from me, but she's not doing anything, so I don't push her with a pole or anything. And she goes past me like that, and I follow her. I kind of follow her a little bit, and I watch her go up the starboard side of the boat. So she goes up the starboard side of the boat, and she disappears into the gloom. And I know what she's up to because I've done this before. So I fin over to the other side, and I'm watching down the port side of the boat, and I see her coming down the port side of the boat. So I go back between the engines of the boat, and I'm maybe 1 meter away from the dive platform. And she comes around. I see her coming around like that. And as she comes around like that, she comes straight at me. She just suddenly kicks and she comes straight at me, and I take that pole, and I was expecting it. And I take that aluminium pole and I stick it on her cheek like that, and I push her away. And she's actually trying to snap. She's like snapping at this aluminium pole, and and she goes away. So I get out the water, and because this shark's getting aggro, and it was very quick. They don't normally come in at you this quickly. So I get out the water, and I say to the cameraman, "Did you get that?" And he says, "I think I got it. I really think I got it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure." So I said, "But you think you got it?" He says, "Yeah, I think I got the shot." So I'm busy gonna get undressed now, take my wetsuit off and everything. And John comes over to me and he says, "Craig," he says, "we think we got that shot, but we don't know if we got the shot. Would you mind doing it just one more time? Just one more time?" And I'm like, "Are you serious?" He says, "Oh, please, can you do it one more time, and we just try and get one more shot just in case." So Mike again, he's telling me, "Craig, don't do this." And I think about it a bit and I think, okay, one more time, I'm gonna do this one more shot. And I told John, I said, the conditions down there are bad. I said, the sharks know that the visibility is poor, the sharks are kind of on, and I'm risking my life, but I'll do it one more time, one more shot. So I'm standing on the dive platform, and I'm literally standing on the edge of the dive platform, and my fins are touching the water. The sun's slightly behind, well, actually quite well behind me now. My shadow's been thrown onto the water. Mike's sitting here, the cameraman's over there ready with his camera. And I'm looking around, I'm trying to see where the sharks are. Mike's trying to see where the sharks are, because I don't want to jump in and the shark's right in my face. So eventually, I think, okay, it's fine. And I'm standing on the dive platform like this, and I step off the dive platform. I'm stepping off, and I'm basically airborne. And as I step off, I look down, and I just see this monster, this 5-meter monster great white shark. She's coming up like that. Here's the dive platform, and she's coming up like that. And she breaks. I'm falling into her mouth. Her jaws are agape like that, and she comes up, and I'm literally looking down her throat, and I'm stepping into her mouth, into her jaws. And fortunately, there's a gantry that we used to lift the cage up with. And I drop the aluminium pole, and as I'm falling, I grab the gantry, and I kind of like swing around, and my legs are off the dive platform, but I swing around, and I manage to swing myself onto the outboard engine. I knock Mike off the outboard engine, I hit my shins, I land on the outboard engine, and I look behind me, and the shark, this big, beautiful 5-meter monster, she comes up and she breaks surface. Her nose comes out of the water like that. She breaks surface, and she looks at me. She actually looks at me, and it's almost like she's saying, "Try it, buddy. Go for it. Try it. These are not the right conditions. I'm going to take you out." And that's what it felt like. And anyway, she broke surface like that, and she cruised around, and she came around the boat, and the top side cameraman was filming her, and we were all like, "Wow, look at the size of this thing." A 5-meter great white shark is a bust. That thing is like this. And we were excited to see it. But anyway, back to the freediving. I said to John, "Forget about it, brother. I am not going back in the water again. There's no ways I'm going back in the water, and I'm not going into the water with a 5-meter great white shark." So they said, "No, okay, they understand." Turns out we got the shot. When I was in the water and the shark came past and I pushed it away with a pole, the smallest shark, we got the shot, so they were happy. But there's a lesson in this, because that evening we were having a barbecue, and the film crew had gone back to where they were staying, and myself and Mike, and I don't know who else was crewing with us that day, I can't remember. We were sitting around having a barbecue, having a couple of beers, and Mike said to me, he said, "Craig, you know what?" He said, "I will follow you to the gates of hell." He says, "I trust you emphatically." He says, "I've always trusted you." He says, "But today you broke a code." And I said to him, "What are you talking about?" And he said to me, "Today you risked my life." I said, "How do you mean?" He said, "Today you should not have been in the water. You went against everything you've taught me." And he said, "You went in that water when you knew you shouldn't have been in the water, and if something went wrong, I would have had to get into the water there to help you, and I would have risked my life. And I was like, come on, Mike, we got the shot, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you what, that night, and since then, I often thought about it, and Mike was correct. He was completely 100% correct. I should not have been in that water that day. I should not have been messing with the sharks. I should have gone with my gut. And most importantly, I should never have taken payment for doing that, because once you take payment, you got pressure on you. Now you have to perform. Now it's not up to you anymore. It's not up to me to make my decisions. Psychologically, I had to perform for the camera. And it's wrong. Free diving with great white sharks, do it if you're experienced. I am experienced, and I almost got killed that day. And today a lot of people think it's easy to go free diving with great white sharks, but they don't have the experience. And most people that go try and do free diving with great white sharks, they do it to be on the camera, they do it for self-promotion. And that's when things go wrong. That's when your margin for error disappears, when things and if things do go wrong. So anyway, there was an amazing day in my life with the great white sharks. I could have lost my life. Thank goodness I didn't. But it taught me a lesson that I stuck to after that. My man, Mike Ladley, was 100% correct. It was a humbling experience, and that's it. It's an awesome story. It was an amazing experience. We got the shot. We were successful, but I actually fucked up that day. Sorry to swear, but I actually fucked up that day. But we still got the shot. Anyway, thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the other side.